So far, we've looked at 8 reasons to conclude that the rapture of the church occurs before the tribulation. We're going to take a look now at 3 more. So, number 9, Old Testament types. Bible students know that some of the richest study is in examining what are called types. Types are Old Testament lessons that foreshadow New Testament truths. Joseph is an astounding type of Jesus. In John chapter 3, Jesus told Nicodemus that Moses lifting up the serpent in the wilderness pointed to him. Abraham offering his beloved son Isaac, and the ram that was provided as a substitute. Oh, that's a powerful picture, a powerful type of God the Father offering his beloved son as our substitute. The book of Hebrews is filled with amazing biblical types. There are Old Testament types that point to a pre-tribulation rapture. Consider, for instance, Lot. In Genesis chapters 18 and 19, Lot and his family were delivered from God's wrath on wicked Sodom. God didn't protect them in the outpouring of his wrath. He removed them from the very time and place of it by taking them up into the hills surrounding the valley. Interesting that in 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 9, it speaks of Lot, and it says that he was an example of how, quote, the Lord knows how to deliver the godly out of temptations and to reserve the unjust under punishment for the day of judgment, unquote. Now, that word translated temptations there means a trial that aims to reveal the nature of a thing. That's precisely what the tribulation is. It's a time of trial and testing to prove that humanity has gone rebel, gone rogue. Consider Enoch. We consider this interesting guy Enoch in Genesis chapter 5. He never died. God simply took him one day. And that was prior to the flood in the next chapter, chapter 6. The flood was God's judgment on a world gone rebel. Now, someone might counter with the question, but what about Noah? He was righteous, but went through the flood. Correct. He and his family were protected in the ark. So the question is asked, isn't Noah a picture of God protecting the church during the tribulation? And the answer is no. Noah isn't a picture of the church. He's a type of God's protection of Israel during the tribulation. Noah pictures Israel while Enoch represents the church, raptured prior to judgment. Besides, those who have a post-tribulation rapture position don't think that God is going to protect or preserve the church during the tribulation. Consider also Daniel. Do you ever wonder where Daniel was when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were in the fiery furnace in Daniel chapter 3? They were there for refusing to bow to Nebuchadnezzar's image. Nebuchadnezzar is a type of the Antichrist who makes an image and demands the world worship it. Where's Daniel? Did he bow to the image? Well, of course, no way. So why wasn't he with his 3 friends? Well, that's the point. That he's not even mentioned is a mystery, foreshadowing the mystery of the rapture of the church. Like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, represent Israel and how God will preserve them during the fiery trial of the tribulation. Daniel's absence is a type pointing to the church's absence from the very hour of the trial. Here's a 10th reason to believe in a pre-tribulation rapture. The tribulation is called Jacob's trouble. In Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7, the tribulation is called the time of Jacob's trouble. Jacob, of course, was the father of the 12 tribes of Israel, was renamed Israel. The tribulation is called Jacob's trouble because it's a unique time in which God awakens the Jews nationally to embrace Jesus as their Messiah. In Deuteronomy chapter 4, Moses made this remarkable statement, quote, "From there you will seek the Lord your God, and you will find him if you seek him with all of your heart and with all of your soul. When you are in tribulation, and all these things come upon you in the later days, when you turn to the Lord your God and obey his voice. For the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not forsake you, nor destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers, which he swore to them," unquote. All of God's promises to Israel will be fulfilled, and it's during the tribulation that he will move decisively to make himself known to national Israel. But in order for God to make Israel the focus of his redemptive attention, he will need to switch that focus off the church. And the only way to do that and not violate his promise to never leave nor forsake us is to take the church out of the earth and transport it to heaven. An 11th reason to believe in a pre-tribulation rapture is that the pre-tribulation rapture best squares with the 70 weeks of Daniel chapter 9. Now, this is a rather complex and involved proof, but one of the most powerful. I'm going to quickly summarize. In Daniel chapter 9, God told the prophet that 490 years were set aside for God to deal with the Jews and Jerusalem in a special way of focus. The first 483 of those years were fulfilled right down to the very day. That leaves one last period of 7 years. Since the first 483 years were literal years, it stands to reason the last 7 will be as well. God said that 490 years were all set aside for God's redemptive and unique focus on Israel. As I said, for God to turn his redemptive focus onto Israel, he must shift it away from the church. And the only way that he can do that is if the church has been raptured and is with him in heaven. The church wasn't here for the first 483 years of Daniel's prophecy. It's not going to be here for the last 7 either.